Today is the 81st anniversary of Executive Order 9066. On December 7, 1941, Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, the U.S. naval base near Honolulu, Hawaii, killing 2,400 Americans. And on December 8th, President Roosevelt declared war with Japan, thrusting the U.S. into World War II. In response to the attack on Pearl Harbor, many feared that those of Japanese descent living in the United States might become spies or conspirators for the Japanese government. Though there was no evidence to show that that fear was valid, on February 19, 1942, President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066. The order declared that all persons deemed a threat to national security would be evacuated to internment camps. The internment began with forced curfews and other regulations for Japanese Americans. Then they were encouraged to voluntarily evacuate. And finally, on March 29, 1942, Public Proclamation No. 4 was announced, which began the forced evacuation and detention of Japanese American West Coast residents on just a 48-hour notice. 112,000 people were sent to assembly centers, which were mostly set up at racetracks and fairgrounds, where they were housed in stables. They were then sent to one of 10 relocation centers or internment camps to stay for the duration of the war. Of the 112,000 people relocated, almost 70,000 were American citizens, and many were veterans who fought for the U.S. in World War I. Not only were those detained in the internment camps forced to give up their lives, their homes, their businesses, and all of their belongings, but they were also forced to live in deplorable conditions with lack of proper food or housing. The internment lasted until March 20th, 1946, and during that time, the governor assembled a combat unit of Japanese Americans. Despite knowing that their friends and family members were back home being held in internment camps, the 442nd Regimental Combat Team went on to become the most decorated of the war. The internment lasted until March 20th, 1946, but the residual damage lasted far longer, and in some cases still exists today. In 1988, President Reagan signed the Civil Liberties Act, which granted $20,000 in reparations to every surviving detainee of the internment camps. He acknowledged that the reparations could in no way make up for the internment, but would hopefully discourage the occurrence of similar injustices and violations of civil liberties in the future. Be sure to follow if you'd like to see tomorrow's Today in History.